Back again, another week on the 3 a.m. Coney. I am Matt Roden here with Lucas Moore up in Chicago. We're going to make this one short and sweet because it is Friday and it is 1 p.m. and it's almost time for happy hour. Almost time for some 3 p.m. Conies. Yeah, do some 3 p.m.
You told
Conies.
me, hey, hard cutoff at 2, like you had an appointment or something. I didn't know.
Well, I do, and I'll tell you what I have. I have Greg Hand coming back on to record 3 more segments of Unearthing Cincinnati's Past. And I went through and I updated some of the videos there, and I got my new personal website. I'm going to put a bunch of pictures and videos up on there, and I'm very excited. I told him to pick topics that were something about this year. We talked about the pandemic and like New Year's Eve 1921, where there were a bunch of murders and crazy shit that happened last year. Yeah. So I don't know what he's going to get. Cicadas, or we've talked about aliens. We've talked about everything.
Well, the murder stuff, this is interesting. Like, do you ever listen to those murder podcasts? Does your wife listen to any of those?
I've tried. They get too long. I need the quick like setup. Like, here was the motive, here was the person, and this was the murder, and here are all the pictures. That's what I need. Unless it's like a horror movie, I'll watch the movie documentary about it.
Yeah, but like the thing is that my fiance, I think a lot of women, and I don't know why, like I can't listen to
to it.
Like I can't listen to a long form podcast where it's like, then Jimmy slit his throat, stuffed her in a bag, dragged her down the steps, put her in the back of the car, where he then intercepted a 3-year-old, slit and I'm like, whoa, oh my God, I can't like listen to this. And they listen to it like this. They're going, like something's relaxing going on up there, and you're listening to the worst murder I've ever heard of.
This is how I start my day. I can't go to sleep without my murder podcast.
She'll come home and I'm like, hey, you look super relaxed, baby. Like, what's been going on today? It's like, well, I just listened to a couple murder podcasts and I'm feeling really good. And I'm like, excuse me?
Something about hearing dozens of other people get murdered just remind you why you're still alive. Why life is worth living.
Hey, for my pain and suffering, I watch the Cincinnati Reds. So
great segue. We're going to do a Reds quickie. We just got the news that TJ is moving to the 10-day IL, the one serviceable closer for the Reds bullpen.
Yeah, this is like if you had 3 fingers blown off during a fireworks incident in April, and then somebody cut off the last 2 fingers. That's what the Reds bullpen's like right now.
Yeah,
because it was a disaster already, and TJ Antone was a nice little surprise in the bullpen, which you usually have one of those in Major League Baseball, right? That's what makes a good bullpen going into the year great, is the one guy you don't expect that has a low ERA. And the only guy that the Reds feel like comfortable with in the bullpen is this surprise guy. Now he's hurt, and it's just it's a disaster. It's an implosion down there, and it's one that the Castellinis asked for by dumping Iglesias' contract and getting rid of Archie Goodwin, the pickup from last year at this time. So when you have that combination of things, what in the world? Turn that off.
Wait, this is not our first podcast, man. Turn that.
I tell you, man. People just don't know my schedule. It's ridiculous.
It's their fault. How dare you call me?
Yeah, how dare you?
No, but we knew that this bullpen was going to be bad. We knew, just like the Bengals offensive line last year, we're like, okay, this is the one really bad soft spot that seemingly went ignored. Are you hoping that it's just going to be better, or would you like to actually address this so that you can have an all-around team there?
No, because they're worried about money, which is it's understandable in a sense that that's what baseball has always been, and you've got to worry about your bottom line, especially in a city like Cincinnati with the type of media deals and all that good stuff, right? And I'm not going to spend the next 10 minutes we have going into the Reds financials, but the Castellinis...
But you could.
Yeah. The Castellinis made a financial decision after they went aggressive because of the pandemic, because they lost all that revenue, and anyway, they had decreasing attendance before that. Just sell the team then, man.
Yeah.
Sell the team. Because the city wants a winner. You'll never put butts in the seats, and you'll never make revenue unless you create winning baseball. And a cowardice move like that and dumping 2 cheap contracts just to save a little money, and then it cost you in the middle of the season in a division that feels winnable, that's your fault. And if you're going to do things like that, just sell the team. Just sell the team. If you can't afford it, Sell the team.
And I mean, the Reds had a good week, a good past 10 games with 4 games sweeping the Cardinals for the first time since the 90s or something ridiculous.
Long time.
And yeah, so they pull you back in and they're like, okay, well, they were shitty, but oh, wow, there's a flash of they're getting their shit together. They're coming back to 500, and then they show you who they really are.
That's going to be all year. You know what a baseball team is about 78% of the time after 40 games. And my buddy Max McDoulan's done actually things that have been published in the Society of American Baseball Research about that 40-game mark. It's even more indicative once you get to the 60-game mark.
Yeah.
So if you're 29-31 at 60 games, listen, the Washington Nationals of 2019 does not happen every year. Expect this all year from this team. They've got really good frontline hitters, some really good, on occasion, frontline starters, and that means they're capable of sweeping teams. They're capable of being dangerous. But the way their roster is constructed, the lack of depth in the lineup, the lack of any really significant bullpen arms, the fact that their frontline starters like Sonny Gray and Luis Castillo have been inconsistent and up and down, this is a 500 at best ball club. It's going to be really fun and exciting, and then really disappointing. And then really fun and exciting, and then really disappointing. So just enjoy going to Great American
Just that fun roller coaster of Cincinnati sports.
Yeah, and that's just how it's going to be. And I think we all need to accept that. Are they going to make a deadline deal to make this a different type of team? Probably not. Is their lineup going to get randomly hot? Probably not. Are their starters going to find consistency? Probably not. Is Gutierrez going to win Rookie of the Year out of nowhere? Probably not. So these things that we're kind of hoping for and grabbing for, they aren't realistic to me. So the way I'm trying to approach this season is the way I watched Reds baseball in 2005. Yay, the Reds are on. Let's see if they can score a bunch of runs tonight, have a lot of fun. Let's not worry about success. Because if you're worried about success with this version of the Reds team, you are setting yourself up for disappointment.
Yeah.
And you can watch baseball without being obsessed with success. You really can. So I just don't want to come on here and say, oh, we swept the Cardinals, we're going to the playoffs, because it's not going to happen. Right? And I'm not going to
There are way too many games. We are still too early in the season.
It's just, I just don't want to set, I don't want to lie to it. I don't want to lie to people. I don't do that. That's why, like, I can't be hyped about everything, because I'm going to be hyped about this squad, these new stripes behind me.
Yeah. Speaking of making predictions that come true.
Yeah. Well, I want you to know that hype is real, that I just don't hype every Cincinnati team, right? Yep. FC Cincinnati is an absolute disaster of an organization. Literally every decision they've made since they've entered the MLS has been like 5 of the worst decisions I've ever seen any sports organization make. Other than the stadium, they are literally a tire fire.
Stadium's great. The stadium's fucking awesome.
In there, how was that?
It was awesome. I mean, I love Nippert, obviously, big Bearcat fan, but I mean, that stadium, with it being brand new, with them taking everything about the Bailey, with the standing room, with the separate little areas for the drums, and it's like everything was thought of, and it's beautiful inside. I mean, I guess if I'm going to Paul Brown Stadium and I'm comparing it to that, it's it's like, wow, something this century. But it was amazing. I mean, I'm going to continue to go to games, and hopefully they win one that I am at.
Yeah.
That's my level of success bar for FC Cincinnati right now. Not success as a whole, but win the games I'm at. Like, I don't care if you lose the rest of them, but
yeah, it's just, Matt, the thing with FC Cincinnati and the Reds, you get to go to the games. They can be fun, and just leave it there. Don't start.
Well, the Reds tried to do what? Their reopening day. It got rained out. They tried to do their reopening day, and no one went. And it like rained after the 7th inning or something. And it's just, we're at full capacity. And you look around, and you're like, no, not really.
Well, I'm not surprised by it. And I'll keep watching. And Hunter Green looks really, really good. There's some really nice, interesting young prospects. And, hey, there's a couple of good frontline hitters. There's a way, if you navigate an offseason, that this team could be competitive in the near-term future. World Series window, wait till Hunter Green is nearing his contract.
Yeah, but just not this year. Stop getting your hopes up, even if they 4-game sweep the Cardinals in
Enjoy
St.
the
Louis.
sweep, though.
Enjoy the sweep.
Don't be negative, but don't go crazy.
All right. We have talked Reds. We have talked FC Cincinnati. I threw in a Bearcats. Let's talk Joe Burrow.
Our king.
Our king. The king has returned.
Seriously, if Joe Burrow said, hey, Cincinnati, if you love us, come here to Cincinnati. We're annexing away from the United States, and I'm going to be president of that country. Sign me up.
Come down to Burrowtopia.
What do you need, Joe? I'll carry a gun. I'll guard borders. Like, what do you need? Like, that's the type of leader this guy is. And a really interesting thing I wanted to talk about with you, Matt, was the added velocity. This is something that we actually kind of hinted at when I did an interview with head coach Nathan White. He's the coach of the Athens Bulldogs, which is where Joe Burrow played high school football. He was the offensive coordinator and the guy that essentially helped Joe Burrow really grasp and run an effective LSU-style spread offense in high school. So he knows a ton about Joe Burrow, and he hinted, hey, every offseason, ball comes out of his hand a little harder. He's able to rebuild his body. He's able to do this. So I recommend go and check out that interview with Nathan White, because he basically tells you.
Yeah, we can repost that.
Exactly. Tells you Joe Burrow's mentality, Joe Burrow's mindset, and why he makes these improvements every offseason. And this is something that isn't new to 2021. This is what you'll get from Joe Burrow every year. I cannot even imagine how good this kid is going to be at 28. At 28, just keep him healthy. In 28, he's going to be Aaron Rodgers level type player. I think he's already kind of close. I mean,
he's going to be skipping OTAs in Hawaii, having the time of his life. Not that.
Ability.
Okay, right on the football field. Gotcha.
Yes.
Yeah. No, you have the receivers coming out and saying like, "Oh, my hands are stinging now." Joe Burrow. I mean, if he's sitting on his ass waiting for his leg to heal, he's working on his upper body. He looks ripped. Got that spiral going. I'm definitely excited to see how he has improved, and especially with the deep ball. Too, the strength that is adding to that. There were videos of him like 65 yards aiming at a bucket and getting a foot away. That's going to be exciting if that's going over the top to Chase.
Yeah, and it's not even just the distance of that throw. He's figuring out this thing that Russell Wilson has down, where the ball almost drops out of the sky.
It's nowhere, and then it's just right there in their hands.
Yep, and it just goes zoom, like it's a guided missile that's dropping in. And that's a skill that you can work on. That's a skill that you can improve on. And Joe Burrow knows that. But, I said it last week. I think we're going to look back at this injury as possibly the best thing that ever happened to Cincinnati Bengals football because of the ability to get Jamar Chase. If Jackson Carman pans out, I guess you could have got him a little later in the draft. They had the trade back. But the trade back could net really good play. I mean, if this thing goes right, which the list of ifs is getting shorter and shorter every year. This is the shortest list of ifs we've had since 2016, okay? It gets shorter and shorter every year. So if one day all the ifs happen, and this year if all the ifs happen, this team is an AFC North title contender. And I know there's a lot of good teams in the division, and that's what we're talking about next. The Coney versus Vegas.
Cincinnati versus Vegas. We're going to talk the AFC North win totals. And right now, the Bengals are at the bottom. They have the Ravens set at 11. Over under 11 wins. Browns set at 10.5. Steelers set at 8.5. And the Bengals set at 6.5. What are your over unders predictions for those there?
For the Ravens?
Yeah, over under 11.
It all depends. The division is so competitive that when you're dealing with win-loss totals, it's all going to depend on all the other teams in the division. So I'll give you a quick breakdown. The Ravens are the most talented team, I think. They have right now the best player in the division in Lamar Jackson. Not the best quarterback, the best player in the division.
Playmaker, yeah.
Some would take Lamar Jackson over Joe Burrow. If we're just talking about quarterback, I don't know. But player, Lamar Jackson is incredible. He's going to create a lot of yards, a lot of offense. So I really like the Ravens as the favorite in the division. They're the number one team to go against, in my eyes, as a Cincinnati Bengals supporter. In terms of the Browns, I was worried about the Browns if they would have just said, hey, we were 11-5. Let's just do a little nip and tuck and then move on to next season. Because if you actually look at the advanced analytics, the Browns got really lucky in a lot of games last year. They really should have been about an 8-8, 9-7 team instead of 11-5. Okay. They almost lost twice to us. Okay. So they're not exactly world beaters, but they had such a good offseason that I think they're going to end up being about the same team. So I'll go under 10.5 and say 10-6. But I think they're going to be about the same team.
You mean 10-7?
10-7, excuse me. Yeah, 10-7. I'll give them 11-6.
Yeah, see, you got to take that into account with these new win totals. I was looking at that and doing the same thing. I was like, oh, that means the Bengals are going to lose. Wait, 11 games?
No, yeah, it sucks. But I'll go 11-7 for the Browns. I'll go 12-5 for the Ravens. And this is right now. I have the right to change. For the Steelers, I'm going to go 8-9. I think it's Mike Tomlin's first losing season, but he can still say, hey, I got 8 wins.
Yeah.
Is there a little bit of a disaster?
It would have been 8-8, but
I think there's a bad culture going on there. I think it's getting a little stale with Ben Roethlisberger. I mean, God, he was running like 2 miles per hour at the end of the season last year.
But the leadership of Juju, I mean, you know that he's just going to be pulling everyone onto his TikTok page.
Well, Juju is just so much better at TikTok than I could ever imagine being. So at least there's that for him. So that brings us to the Bengals. I think they're over 6.5 easy. Are they going to be an 8-9 team along with the Steelers at the bottom of the division? Or are they going to start making some noise and challenge the top 3 teams? As of right now, today, because I don't know if Jackson Carman is any good, I'll stick with my preseason prediction of 9-8 for the Cincinnati Bengals. I still don't trust this coaching staff. I don't think anything over the last year or 6 months should have changed your mind. And unless Jim Turner really was the cancer in the locker room, the cancer in the meeting rooms, the cancer in the coaching staff, if you cut out the tumor that's Jim Turner and it's all better now, that's like the only hope I have for the coaching staff. The team's talented enough to win 12, 13 games if you get the right guys pushing the buttons. There's no doubt about that. I don't trust him in late game situations. And here's the most important stat I've heard from The Athletic. Paul Dehner wrote this stat today in an article I read. The Bengals over the last 2 years under Zach Taylor have had the lead at halftime in 12 games. They've only won 4 of them. That's 33% of the time, or 31%, whatever you want to do it.
Yeah, that's not great.
30% of the time. Do you know what the league average is, Matt?
I would say 65.
81.
81.
81. In fact, over the last 2 years, there is not a single team in the NFL that has a below 500 record when leading at halftime.
Except for the Bengals.
The Bengals are 4-8. 4-8. That's despicable.
That's incredible. Okay. Breaking records, baby.
And that's coaching. And we've done the stats over and over and over again about how it's coaching. So I'm not going to change my mind just because Joe is making me super optimistic. There is still a lot for Joe Burrow to overcome. I think 9-8 would be a hell of a feat with this type of coaching staff. Now, I want to be proven wrong. If Jim Turner was the problem and Frank Pollock fixes the O-line, and then we get to see the brilliance of Lou and the brilliance of Zach because they fix the number one thing on a football team, the offensive line, then maybe my mind can be changed. But I'm not going to do it without evidence. And right now, I think the Bengals are a 9-8 team. But I still take the over, 6.5.
Yeah, I mean, 9 is well over the over, but we're going to have to see this season if those halftime adjustments can be made. 4-8 is terrible. And I mean, you feel that as a Bengals fan watching the game, and you're just like, we could be up 21 points at halftime, and it's like, hey, sit down, stop celebrating. There is still way too much time. It could be the 2-minute warning in the fourth quarter, and we're up 10. It's hey, sit down. This is where we start to lose the game. You need to stop celebrating.
It's that,
and that needs to stop. That needs to end. Until that ends, we're not going to. If we don't win these close games, we're not going to be that team.
Yeah, well, guess what? When you're leading at halftime, you know what you have to do to keep the lead. You got to run the ball. You have to be able to run the ball. And the Bengals over the last 2 years have been despicable at running the ball. And that might have been Jim Turner. So maybe there's the hope.
So you think now with Mixon back, with the O-line better, you think the running game is one of the big?
Yes. Yes. If Joe Mixon has 4.5 or more yards per carry, Joe Burrow will be top 3 in MVP voting, and I guarantee you that. That's a guarantee.
Guarantee. Bet the house on it.
If Joe Mixon plays all 17 or 15 of the 17, and the Bengals as a team average 4.5 yards a carry, Joe Burrow will win an MVP or finish top 3 in MVP voting. That's all.
There you go.
That's the only thing he needs, because then he can win games, and that's how you win MVPs. You got to win games. So if he is able to get that running game to control clock and then get a 3rd and 4, then get a 3rd and 4, then get a 3rd and 3.
Go tell the Reds that, because you got Winker and Castellanos fighting for MVP and looking at the rest of the Reds team and going, guys,
yeah, they're not even going to start.
Help me.
They're not even going to start in the All-Star game.
That's absurd.
They're 2 of the top 3 hitters in Major League Baseball. So
absurd.
That's what happens when you lose. And that's all I'm really looking for in terms of the offense. The passing game is going to be there. The deep passing game will be there if the offensive line is just a little bit better. That's all you really need for there to be a deep, explosive passing game. But if the running game comes along, now we're getting into a bunch of game management.
Opens up everything.
Yeah. Actions. It makes the offense top 5 capable, top 3 capable, outscore the Chiefs capable, which is what this team went for. They didn't go to beat the Ravens. They drafted Jamar Chase to beat the Kansas City Chiefs in January. That's what they did. Now, whether that's a smart decision or not, we'll find out. But
I think that's a good call on that end. They just got to get there. They just got to. The journey cannot kill them to get to the top of the mountain.
That's true. And just keep Joe Burrow healthy. That's the only thing. I mean, if he just can't get hurt. Last year, I wasn't saying that. Last year, ACL, I was fine. Bop, bop, bop. If that happens again,
bop, bop.
If an injury happens again, I'll be at DEFCON 1 or whatever, 5. I don't know, whatever word.
Orange. DEFCON red. Panic mode.
Down. And
okay,
say,
well, don't even put that into the universe. We are in positive vibes that he is coming off of that season, and it's
over.
All systems Joe right now.
Yep. Sins are forgotten. He got hurt. It had to happen. So thank God it happened when we were 2-7.
Yeah.
So
there you go. All right, another Coney in the books. We will see you next week and hopefully talk about how great the Reds are doing, and you can turn around and say they're over 500, and you can tell us why we should not be excited about it.
Oh, well, listen, I'm willing to change my mind. Go ahead and do it.
It's on you, Reds. Let's see it. Till next week.
It always is. As it always is. It's never on us. It's always on you.
Always on you. It's not us, it's you.
Hey, we only went 8 minutes over.
Boom. Yeah, that wasn't bad. 23 minutes. That was all right. We were flowing.
Hey.